Joker, Folie, Adieu. This is part 2 to The Joker. We're going to talk about this using my space system, of course. Every category gets a score between 0 and 2. 2 is the best you can get in any category. Let's start off by saying that the original Joker movie I thought was okay. It was a good movie. I bought it on 4K. I have the soundtrack. The soundtrack was good. It was a good movie. I liked it. I didn't love it. I didn't think it was a billion-dollar movie. I didn't think it was a franchise movie. I didn't think this is the real Joker. I thought this was a cool movie with, mixtures of other movies. King of Comedy comes up, Taxi Driver comes up. Those movies come up because it is kind of a mixture of those movies. You even have Robert De Niro in it. The last half an hour of the Joker, the first one, was pretty cool, like once he's in the makeup and everything. And I do think he looks pretty neat. And I really like Joaquin Phoenix in this role. I think he did a very good job in the role. And same thing with this movie. So for the storyline, though, on this one, I'm going to have to give it a 0.5. So if I give it a 0, that means it's utter garbage. If I give it a 2, it's amazing. So I'm going to give it a 0.5. The thing is that this movie is 2 sections, and then those 2 sections are in 2 parts. So no spoilers, and if there's going to be spoilers at the end, I'll let you know. So section 1A is Arthur Fleck in Arkham Asylum hanging out, his life there. Section 2 of part 1 is Harley Quinn, or Lee, they used to call her Lee, Lee and Joker hanging out in Arkham. And then part 2 is a trial. So it's the trial of the crimes that Joker committed from part 1. So part 2, section A, is the trial of Joker. And then 2B is where Joker takes over as his own defense attorney, which is actually pretty awesome. So those are your 4 sections. It's not really 3 acts. It's more like these 4 compartments here. Each compartment has its own, good things and bad things. So overall, the story, there isn't a story. I don't like sequels. Like this part 2 is like, oh, let's have what's Arthur's life like in Arkham. Well, I don't really care that much unless it's going to further to something, and it really kind of doesn't, because there's a lot of setups, and the payoffs either A, do not happen, or B, are awful, like bad takes. Todd Phillips, it almost feels like he hates the Joker character. I don't think he's reading the room, because a lot of people like the Joker character. The other problem is that Arthur Fleck is just constantly beaten up and treated like garbage for the entire 2 hours and 20 minutes. There's few glimpses where he's happy or whatever. My problem is that I don't think the character that we saw in the first film deserves these punishments. Maybe that's the point, that, because the whole thing with the Joker, if you're taking the Joker from comics and taking all of that 75, 80 years or whatever it is now, it's like, geez, I think it's like 80 years, geez, of Joker. And then you're like, that's the guy. Well, yeah, punish this guy. This guy's a piece of garbage. The problem is that Arthur Fleck in the first movie, if we break it down, he killed his mother, but she was completely insane and treated him like garbage and abused him his whole life. She abused him his whole life. I'm not saying he's justified in doing that. I'm simply saying that there's not going to be a lot of people upset over that action. It's wrong to do that, but you're like, well, you did abuse this guy. Okay. The 3 people on the subway, well, they were beating the crap out of him, right? Like, I mean, depending on how you work that, it could have been self-defense. Now, after he shot that guy, he did follow him out and then shot him again. But there's also questions in that movie whether that scene actually took place in the way it did. I always interpreted as that they didn't do anything to him, and he just thought that they did something to him, and that's why he's crazy. But this movie seems to just suggest that they were bullying him. So I was like, well, then I'm not that upset over those guys. Again, they didn't deserve to die, 100%. But you're not that upset over it. And then the other one is he killed Murray and his friend from the thing. So we'll get to Murray in a second. So he killed I'm sorry, this view's going to be a bit longer. he killed the first guy. He killed his friend. Yeah, but that guy ratted him out at work and got him fired, or was one of the contributions to get him fired. Again, does he deserve to get his head smashed into a wall? No, he doesn't. But as an audience member, you're like, well, he hasn't killed anyone completely innocent. Like, the Joker in comics is a piece of garbage. He's a bastard. He kills anybody, and innocent people get hurt all of the time. But in the first Joker movie, he didn't really do anything. Now, people had riots and stuff in his name, but that's really their own dumbasses doing that, not him. And he didn't call for the riots. They just did. Plus, Gotham's a shitty place. Now, killing Murray, Robert De Niro, he is an innocent, but also it's the Joker. Like, at that point in time, he's now the full Joker. So you've pissed him off. Like, you brought him on here to make fun of him, and you pissed him off, and he killed you. I mean, that's the Joker. So now we're having this trial, and I'm like, yeah, but like, I don't really care that much. That's the problem. So the big thing is Harley Quinn is in this movie, and they're gonna be together, and that's where we're getting at, right? So that's the big thing you're waiting on in this movie, is the two of them to get together, and it is cool. They build it up nicely. It's really nicely done. Okay, but ultimately the payoffs are terrible, or there is no payoff. So you're like, what am I watching this for? So the entire first act, it's a 2-act, the entire first act becomes pointless. Then we get into the trial, which has some neat parts and has probably the best scene in the movie. But anyways, the pacing, I'm going to give the pacing a 0.5. This movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes for the outcome and the story it tells. It does not need to be this long at all. They're saying it's a musical. It's not a musical. The musicals usually have good musical numbers where characters are either the plot is further through the song, or they're showing their emotions. This movie is showing their emotions, but they're just singing. It's not like they're just sitting in the prison and then Arthur just starts singing because he likes Harley Quinn and he's singing some song, and everyone else is looking at him like, this guy's crazy. And then it cuts. It's like, well, did he really sing that in front of anybody, or was that just in his mind? So it's not a musical where you're going to buy the soundtrack and listen to the songs. Like, that's the thing. Musicals, typically, after you watch them, especially if they're Bollywood ones, the soundtrack becomes a big deal. You're like, oh, I want to hear those songs again. Greatest Showman, that's an example. You want to own the music from that movie if you liked that movie, or any of those other ones, right? There's famous songs, or you kind of you got them stuck in your head. You're singing that. You're singing them. Whatever. That's original music. It could be songs incorporated into a movie, like the Rock of Ages style, where they had that sort of hairband metal soundtrack, and you're like, oh, I like Poison or whatever. Motley Crue's cool, so I'm gonna get that. I want the CD. You're not gonna want the CD of this because it's just singing random stuff. Whatever. But it is a very slow paced movie. The artistry, I'm going to give the artistry a 1. It looked good. Some scenes were really nicely shot, and it looked the way that Todd wanted it to look. So why am I not giving it a 2 out of 2 score? Well, the reason is that it's very repetitive scenery. It's like the first section, as I said, is all Arkham, and you're like, well, it's raining and garbage looking. I'm like, well, I mean, this looks good. The framing of the shots is nice, and cinematography and like atmosphere, it all looks good, but it's just boring after a while. I'm like, yeah, I'm done with Arkham. Like, then they go to the courtroom, and the courtroom looks pretty dreary too. That's the point of the movie, but I mean, it's subjective, I suppose, but I just didn't think it was that great. Like, it looked good, so I'm giving it a 1 point because they put a lot of work into the movie. But ultimately, I was dying over it, and the music I wasn't dying over either, and that's part of the artistry of the film. So, Characters, shocker on this one. I'm gonna give the characters a 2 out of 2. I thought the performances were awesome. I really liked Lady Gaga. I like her anyways. She was great in this movie. Arthur, Joaquin Phoenix really was awesome too. Like, look, these people put their full selves into this role. But just like, the problem is that the outcome of the characters sucks. I'm blaming that on the story section, not on the characters section of my space system. Characters wise, they're good. Harvey Dent is in it. He's kind of neat. He's only in it. You don't get much out of him, but he's okay. It's really these two. I do want to point out that Gary Puddles, He was the dwarf actor or character from the previous film. He returns in this movie, so does Zazie Beetz, to give testimony. His scene is amazing, and his performance is bloody awesome. It literally, like, I think the audience was just like silent and like, whoa, like, amazing. What the hell? This guy can't, like, he was fine in the first movie. He's just one of the characters. In this movie, his testimony and his scene changes the course of the film. Even though his scene was amazing, it actually changes the course of a film in a direction that I don't like, or at least I don't like for the Joker character. But it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I like Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga. They're both great. The way that the characters come out in the end, I don't like at all for either of them. And it feels a bit like a cheat and a cop-out, and I don't like that. So yeah, but I'm blaming that on the story elements, not on their acting or characters. Okay. Enjoyment factor, I went back and forth. I'm going to give it a 0.5 for enjoyment factor. I didn't really hate this movie, and I'll be honest with you. I don't mind slow movies if I like the characters, and I liked the characters. So for the first, like, let's say this is 2 hours and 20 minutes. I don't know. Let's say the last half an hour was brutal. So the first like hour and 45 minutes, I thought, okay, because I thought this was going to pay off. This was the problem. So I'm giving this a 4.5 out of 10. 4.5 out of 10. So it's a fail. 5 is a bare minimum pass, and 6 would be like, yeah, that was like okay, right? So this is like way below. I think if you love the first movie, you're not going to love this at all. You're going to hate this movie. I didn't love the first movie, so that's why I'm not that, like angry about it. I think some of the people that are angry about this movie, it's a little bit of fake anger. I mean, it's slow, it's pretentious, it's like overly dramatic. Oh, you mean like the first movie? This is one of these cases where they just repeat the stuff from the first movie, which dragged that movie down too. That movie should have been 90 minutes. This movie should have been like less than 90 minutes because there's no big story to tell. So it's like a character study. Both films, they're these character studies. And I liked the characters in both. So because they're character studies and I like the characters in both, I don't hate this one. There is a very low probability that I'll ever watch it again. My wife did not like the first Joker. There's no way she's going to like this one. This one is not going to make $1 billion. I don't think so. People that loved that first movie are not going to want to see this movie dismantle the first one. It's so weird. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. And I saw a few videos where they're saying, well, it's an agenda thing. Like people they wanted to tear down the movie or something. I don't think so, because you spent a lot of money and a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of big acting in this. It's like, all right, Joaquin, you got to give it to me in this one. I think that's a lot of work just to say F you to the fans. That seems weird. I think that they thought this is going to be an interesting character study and people are going to really dig this, and it's just a bad decision. Joker should be fighting the Batman. He shouldn't just be hanging around Arkham for 1 hour and 10 minutes, or whatever it is. It's crazy. And then the best part, basically not the last 15 minutes, but the half an hour before the last 15 minutes was the best part, when Joker takes over the trial. He's like, and he comes in his full Joker makeup. He's like, I'm gonna represent myself. And he's like, I'm like, this is hilarious. That was the best part. And that guy's performance, Gary Puddle's character. Yeah, man. Oh boy, this is a weird movie. I don't know what the hell they were thinking on this one. This was a fail. And it was a bad fail because you didn't even have to make a sequel to this. And if you were, just continue with more of the same. It is not Joker. If the first one wasn't the Joker comic to me anyways, and this one is even further removed. They go so far as they're trying to prove to you that this isn't Joker at this point. Like, it's so weird. I don't know. I won't do any spoilers. This video is already too long. You guys let me know what your thoughts are, man. This is a brutal one. This is tough. Anyways, If you like this video, please hit the like and consider subscribing. Check out all the other videos. That's it, everybody. Until next time.